Well, should Dr. Astin be nervous tonight? Let's bring in our legal panel. In Miami, criminal defense attorney Adam Dougherty. In San Francisco, former assistant DA Jim Hammer. Here in Washington, criminal defense attorneys Ted Williams and Bernie Grimm. And let me go to you first. Dr. Astin, he's been indicted 7 counts. Oddly enough, or not oddly enough, I just want to point out the distinction. It's not having to do with Chris Benoit. But should he be nervous tonight?
Well, I think anytime the federal government's coming at you with an indictment, you have a reason to be nervous. I think what's going on with this, Greta, is there's steroids. So the federal government, everybody knows there's a witch hunt going on about steroids right now. They're looking into Major League Baseball. They're looking into professional wrestling. And I think this was a red flag, and I think that's one of the things that got the feds to look into this Dr. Astin right away. So I think anytime you have the federal government and all the powers of the federal government, yes, you have reason to be nervous.
Bernie, I would expect that if steroids were involved with this Dr. Astin in a criminal way, that he would have been indicted with the 7 counts. I'm not going to let him slide today. I think they went in there with a battering ram and they found other things that's suspicious, but I think that at least as far as steroids and Chris Benoit, he must be clear.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the rage, so to speak, steroids is Barry Bonds' allegation, Jason Giambi allegation is sort of the rage right now. If they had any evidence of that, and you know that's all it takes in a grand jury is any evidence, that would have been the lead count in the indictment. They obviously don't have that, so they've charged him with 1 million doses. Sounds like a lot. I'll yield to Dr. Rob, but
she says it's not. And I guess you could get either a 10-milligram pill or you could get 5 2-milligrams.
Yeah,
so now it depends how you add the math.
I mean, she says it doesn't seem like a lot. I mean, I need to find that doctor. I'm under a lot of stress myself. But putting that aside, because Jim Hammer's my lawyer and told me to shut up, it's the multiple prescriptions on the same days for Xanax, Percocet, oxycodone, and these other things.
Ted, I'm somewhat suspicious that after the police rammed down his door, they had to, the investigators, they had to come up with something. I mean, because they go in there like a huge force.
Well, you're absolutely right. This doctor's closed with innocence until a jury he pleads guilty to something. And it is concerning because when you look at this, not only did they go in, but they had to announce that there was, in an exaggerated manner, 1 million dosage of this and how many clients he saw and all of this. I don't think that was terribly necessary. The fact about it is, I have to agree with what Bernie said here. What I think the doctor has to worry about more than anything else is these multiple prescriptions on the same day.
But that's what Dr. Raj says. But
absolutely.
I mean, that's peculiar. I agree. That's Jim. What about it? The fact that there's no Chris Benoit allegation, the 7-count federal indictment against the doctor.
Well, Bernie and Ted are too smart of lawyers to tell their lawyer not to worry at this point. I mean, one of the most commonly heard phrases around the federal courthouse is a superseding indictment. That is, there's often one indictment to get the process rolling, and as more investigation goes on, the feds simply go on and get a new one with new charges. So I say he's not out of the woods yet. And on the deaths themselves, if the local prosecutor, and that's who would do it, can find any connection between the drugs and those deaths, and that's a big if.
He's taken a pass. He's taken a pass already. The only thing they've got so far is the local prosecutor's taken a pass. The feds have gone in on the doctor on these drug violations, and the drug violations are not related to Chris Benoit. And according to Dr. Raj, she was not particularly surprised by the $1 million doses, but the multiple on the same day.
Maybe all you aren't shocked by 1 million, but I tell you, this prosecutor is, and I think this is just the beginning. I think it's a huge scandal in the country what goes on with this kind of stuff, and Nicole and many other celebrities that get these like candy, basically.
Well, it may be a horrible scandal, and it may even be going down, but Bernie's still got to prove it. And I mean, it's like,
How about the undated prescriptions, though? The undated prescriptions, multiple undated prescriptions on one day. Sounds like a crime.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with Jim. I mean, the case is going to be a paper case. It's going to be proven by the scripts in his office. If he's writing...
Suppose he's a bad record keeper.
I guess you can be a bad record keeper and be a doctor, but I always thought doctors studied harder than lawyers, and that's why they're doctors.
They're smarter, Bernie.
You know, Greta,
they're smarter. That's why they're doctors.
The sad commentary about this is, and there are a lot of good doctors out there in the world, but there are a lot of crooked doctors that dispense this stuff. And a crack cocaine addict can get more time in jail than a doctor dispensing 1 million doses of this stuff.
That doesn't mean we go rolling in on this doctor because we don't like the way that's,
I agree.
I mean, this doctor's entitled to a fair shot. Adam, you get the last word on this doctor. What do you think?
Well, I just think it's interesting that you've never seen the feds go in California to all these doctors that were prescribing all of these medications, to Anna Nicole Smith, but yet, a couple weeks after